Hello everybody, I'm Novi and welcome back to the channel. To me, one of the funnest things you can do as a wrestling fan is fantasy book. Send out your dream matches, put together a card that only you could love, and all of that good stuff. It's in that same lane I want to answer my own fantasy booking question when I ask who I would want in my own promotion if I could start one today. All Novi Wrestling, New Novi Pro Wrestling, or World Wonder Ring Novi. I'm not too sure on the name, but these are the 5 men and 5 women who I'd have a part of the roster. Before we get into all that, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for weekly streams every Wednesday before Dynamite and new videos just like these every Saturday, just talking graps. One more thing before we get into the picks, it must be said that there's rules to this. Everyone picked is at their current state, so no ROH Danielson or anything like that because I feel like that'd be a little too easy. And also no tag teams because that just doesn't fit what we're going for here, but hey, I respect tag team wrestling. With the rules out of the way though, let's get to our first pick, which is of course, Will Ospreay. Longtime viewers of the channel know how much I like Will, so it's no surprise to all of you that he's number 1 here. I just think he's incredible. In the ring, the way he meshes storytelling with pure freak athleticism is unmatched in the world today. And on the mic, he's shown he can be a star babyface that crowds can truly rally behind. That's something in particular that was a big question mark going into this US TV run, but he's proved he can talk at the level needed for a guy you build a promotion around. He always just sounds so inspired and filled with this contagious energy that only he exudes. And say I needed him to be a heel for whatever reason, his New Japan run showed that he can do that with ease. There's just nobody in the world like Will Ospreay, and as a huge fan of his and also just objectively, he's of course going to go in my promotion. Second on my list is another transcendent babyface and a rising heel for that matter, Hangman Page. Much like Ospreay, Hangman is one of one in the wrestling world, and if you can't tell already, that's the kind of people I want in my promotion. Unlike Ospreay, however, he's already proven to be a guy you can build your company around, with his rise to world champion being the focal point of AEW for the first 3 or so years. It's a story that I still think is the best in AEW history, and his ability to be the main character in it earns him a spot in any promotion, much less my own hypothetical one. Alongside that as well, he's an incredible in-ring worker which I value very highly, with an ability to have great regular singles matches, in addition to having some of the most creative and dynamic stipulation matches of the modern era, with his Texas Deaths with Mox and Swerve being particularly notable great ones. Hangman is of course the babyface of AEW, but I think with more time as a heel, he'll soon become the heel of AEW because ultimately I feel like he's just the main character of the promotion more often than not. For all that he's done and what I can only assume he'll continue to do, he's for sure a part of the team. The third men's pick in my promotion is going to be a little bit of a controversial one. It's MJF. In my recent video about the All Elite 8, which if you haven't seen, go check that out, I brought up how I think MJF is still one of the most exciting young talents in the world, even given his pretty bad world title reign. And really, that's because of a reason I think many people should try to understand more. It was only his first world title reign. It's not the end of the world. And to say that it is requires you to ignore how good he's been in the past, which is something that I'm for sure not gonna do here. I can admit that MJF is probably not the most sexiest pick for a list like this right now, but I think he still has immeasurable talent that has yet to be fully tapped into. And in my promotion, we're gonna tap into that potential, because he's feuding with Ospreay for about a year, and it's gonna be great. MJF is still an incredible talent, and I'm really excited to see what he comes back with, assuming that it's not the Devil storyline in 2024 hopefully, so he's for sure coming aboard. Next on the list, I think we need a real crazy guy, a guy to really shake things up whenever he comes around. And I think that I know the perfect madman for that. For the 4th pick, I'm going with Gabe Kidd. If you've seen my G1 Climax 33 reviews, which are older and not as polished as my videos are now, keep in mind that they are older, but if you have seen them, you'll know that I thought Gabe Kidd was the most exciting thing about that entire tournament over anyone else, and that's where I became a huge fan of his. I know that his shtick as a violent crazy guy who can't control himself and says what he wants isn't for everyone, but it's for me, I'm afraid. I think the best showcase match to watch if you don't really understand what makes Gabe so special is his G133 match with Kaito Kiyomiya. It was just pure hatred from both sides, and Kaito was actually probably sparked by Gabe Kidd, but the match ended in a countout because they just couldn't stop fighting, so they just ignored the ref counting, and it was awesome, it was perfect. That's probably my favorite example of what makes Gabe Kidd special, but another great one is also his match with Eddie from earlier this year, which is kind of the same thing and I think ends the same way. In addition to all that as well, he's also super young, which is something else I'm taking into account as I form my list, and it'll kind of explain a really notable exclusion from the list later on. But when it comes to Gabe Kidd, I just think he's a special, crazy grappler, and I think we're going to need that in my promotion, so welcome aboard. And also make sure to watch those matches I recommended because they're both fucking awesome. Alright, we're here to the 5th pick. It's the last one, and it's really tough. There were so many people I considered and really wanted to include, but obviously we're limited to 5, so we're going to get into some honorable mentions right now. Bryan Danielson, of course my 1B favorite in the world, as many of you know. He's just a little bit too old and a little bit too beat up for a list like this. You have to kind of take age and wear into account. So while he's still really, really good, I just didn't feel like it would be the right choice to put him on a list like this. Shota Umino, who is younger and who I also think could be the ace of New Japan, just missed the cut here. I think I just need to see a little bit more out of him to include him here. And lastly, Gunther, who is the best part about WWE for me, and I'm not a regular watcher, but I watch for him. He just missed the cut as well. But here we go, 5th pick now, and I think we kind of have to follow the same logic I implemented earlier when I said I want 1 of 1 guys, so I'm going to go with a 1 of 1 athletic freak, Konosuke Takeshita. I know I said Will Ospreay is an athletic freak earlier, but Konosuke Takeshita is different in the best kind of way from that. Ospreay chooses to take to the sky and do those kind of feats, but Takeshita is just a freak while his feet are planted on the ground. If you don't know what I mean by that, just go watch him run the ropes one time and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. When I see that man go from coast to coast on those ropes, I kind of think of that old football saying where they say he just runs angry at the ground. He's just such a beast, and what makes it even better is that he doesn't rely on that to have great matches. It for sure helps, but he's also just fantastic at telling in-ring stories through facial expressions and selling in a way that I think makes him stand out even more. He could just rely on his freakish ability in the same way Ospreay could, but they are able to kind of turn it into something more, and I really appreciate that. This year, he's having a bit of a resurgence as well and having great matches all over the world, and I think he's kind of reminding people why he could be a future AEW World Champion. So given all of that, I think he's the perfect number 5 pick to round out my promotion's men's division. Before we get to the women's division, let's kind of give a little bit of a recap to the names on the side. We have Ospreay, Hangman, MJF, Gabe Kidd, and Konosuke Takeshita. For only 5 roster members, I think that group is rock solid, and I think my first women's pick is going to solidify us even more. The first woman off the board for my promotion is from AEW, and is in fact my favorite women's wrestler in the world, Kris Statlander. Far too many women these days fail at laying in their strikes and making them look like they have some juice behind them. Kris Statlander, however, does not have that problem because she hits like a truck, and I love that. Not even just that, she's also super athletic of a wrestler, which is particularly insane given the fact that both of her knees are robotic after having ACL, I think, surgery on both of them. She came back looking even better, and what solidified her spot at number 1 for me is her TBS title reign. Every time she would get in a ring, whether she was facing a vet or somewhat of a rookie, she would give them a great match. And I think there's a lot of merit in being that kind of wrestler, with it as well speaking very highly of how good she is. With that in mind, there's no doubt that she's going into my promotion first overall and becoming my ace of the women's division. Next woman off the board is only the second non-AEW wrestler to join the promotion, and she's actually free agent, so it's going to be a whole lot easier to get her to come over. Sareee. The level of consistency that she's managed to maintain post NXT in Japan is really incredible. She's faced a wide variety of talent and she's had great matches with pretty much all of them, and I think that's part due to her otherworldly ability, but also her ability to swap from heel to babyface to back again without losing a step. To be honest, I didn't know much about her going into this year, but in January I watched her match with Chihiro Hashimoto and I was immediately hooked on her talent. If you haven't seen that match or her recent one with Mayu Iwatani on All-Star Grand Queendom, I would 100% recommend those matches because then you'll know why she's on my list. And just maybe, after seeing the performances that she's able to put in, she would be on yours too. Sareee rules and is easily one of the best women's wrestlers in the entire world and pretty much my favorite women's wrestler in Japan as a whole, so of course she's going to go this high for me. Next up is the champion of ROH in the midst of a run that will be remembered for decades to come, Athena. I think we all know how good Athena is in the ring at this point, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, although she is fantastic. What I instead want to spend more time on is how she's carried an entire promotion on her back for over 500 days now. That's something almost no wrestler gets a chance to do or has ever really done, and she's done it at such an insanely high level. She's 100 million% proven to be someone you can build an entire promotion around, and I really hope that AEW brings her up to the main roster in the next 6 months or so, because I want to see it happen on main AEW. In my promotion though, you're not going to have to wait, because she's going to be headlining our first pape with Kris Statlander in a month. Athena could very well be objectively the best women's wrestler in the world given all these facts, and I think she's a lock for anyone's hypothetical promotion, so of course she's a lock for mine. Next up is a wrestler who's injured right now, with nobody having really any idea when she's going to come back, but I feel like she has to be included on here, Jamie Hayter. Remember that stuff I said earlier about women hitting hard when talking about Kris Statlander? Well, the same thing applies for Jamie Hayter to an even higher degree. But even with that being probably my favorite aspect of her game, it's been so long since we've seen her. And I'm not sure that after all of this time, and especially coming off of a back injury, which is the hardest one to recover from by all accounts, Thunder Rosa was just out for 2 years, I'm not sure if she's gonna be the same. But when she left, she was at the tip top of her game, and I hope when she does come back that she's at that exact same level or even better, because she fits the mold of women's wrestler that I absolutely love. Honestly, it's just best wishes to Jamie Hayter, and I really hope that we see her back in a wrestling ring soon, but I felt like she needed to be included in my promotion because I love her as a wrestler. And also, Wembley's coming up, and I think she's just gotta be there. We're at the 5th pick for the women now, and of course, just like the men, this list was very hard to narrow down, so just like the men, we have a few honorable mentions to go through. Starting off with Mariah May, who is one of the most exciting young wrestlers in all of AEW, and just barely missed my list. She stands out so much on that roster through her own ability, but also her ability to connect with fans online and in person. It's special, and I really hope that maybe this hypothetical belt win over Toni Storm at Wembley comes true, because that would be dope. Next, we have Billie Starkz, who is also one of the most exciting, very young wrestlers in the world right now, and is clearly developing really well under Athena in ROH. She's really come into her own, and I've really loved a lot of her high-level matches that she's been in, and I could see her overthrowing the Minion Overlord in time, but for now, I'm just excited to see where her TV title reign goes, and to hopefully see more progression in her as a wrestler. And lastly, we have Hanan, who is someone who I haven't seen a ton of, but from what I have seen, she's one of the most exciting young wrestlers in the world today. We're going 3 of 3 for exciting young women's wrestlers in the world as honorable mentions, but hey, that's the game. As well with Hanan though, I would say go watch her match with Sareee, I think that's how you say it, at All-Star Grand Queendom, because that was an excellent match and really showed why she's, I think, going to be great in the future. Last pick for the women in my promotion though, and I think we should go with someone whose connection with the fans is as natural as the sun in the sky, Willow Nightingale. I know that you guys have probably all heard this said a million times about her, but she's an incredible babyface wrestler. All it takes is one promo for her to get any quiet crowd, or just any crowd in general, up for her, because she's the perfect character to rally behind. I don't know if this is a take I've said on YouTube specifically, but I've been very public about it on Twitter. I think she should beat Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing, debut match be damned. That's how good I think she is, and also how excited for this TBS title run I am. Willow is just so special, and I want that kind of person on my roster, no doubt. Before we get out of here, let's recap all the picks just so we know what's going on here in Novi Promotions. For the men's roster, it's Will Ospreay, Hangman Page, MJF, Gabe Kidd, and Konosuke Takeshita. For the women's roster, it's Kris Statlander, Sareee, Athena, Jamie Hayter, and Willow Nightingale. I think we have a solid group over here in Novi Promotions with a lot of great variety, but I want to know who you'd have as your picks in your own hypothetical promotion. So make sure to leave that comment down below, and also while you're there, leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you haven't, just if you're feeling crazy. I also want to take a second to thank each and every one of you because we hit 500 subs on the channel last week. It's been my dream since I was a kid to make content, and to see so many people following along and enjoying what I put out makes me so happy. Genuinely, it's been so fun talking graps with all of you, and I can't wait to keep it going over the summer because wrestling seems to only be getting crazier. With that being said, thank you all again for 500 subs, and thank you for watching this video. It's been Novi. Much love to you all. Peace.